Today, we're learning more about Pete Hegseth's Pentagon purge from two highly experienced former military officers who said they were pushed out of their jobs for questioning his directives.
There's some more unsettling news coming out of this administration as two former military officers told MS Now that they were pushed out of their positions and forced into early retirement after challenging command decisions. According to insiders, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is denying promotions and pushing out officers who raise questions about his directives. The two officers, speaking anonymously out of fear that the Pentagon could retaliate further, including by threatening their retirement benefits, informed MS Now of a department where disagreement with the secretary can end a career.
To quote one of them, Hegseth is intimidated by people who have real war-fighting background and don't just talk about the warfighting ethos. I think he just can't stand people who will call him on his BS. In just a year and a half, Hegseth has already pushed out dozens of senior officials and reportedly blocked the promotions of dozens more, including women and people of color. MS Now Pentagon reporter Priya Sridhar spoke with those military officials. Rick is still with us. Priya, these officers not only talk to you about the impact on the senior ranks, but the mixed feelings it's creating among active duty troops. What did they tell you?
Yeah, that's right, Alicia. Well, many of them are telling me that they're facing kind of their own moral conundrum. Do they decide to also get out and kind of protest with their feet and retire early? Or is it better for them to stay in their roles just as simply sort of a placeholder so that a quote unquote loyalist doesn't come in behind them and take their spot?
Now, as we've seen this week, the Secretary of War has been in the limelight as he faced off with numerous Democrats grilling him on the situation in Iran and how the seemingly obliterated Iranian military, as he described, continues to attack U.S. bases overseas.
On day 14 of this conflict, Mr. Secretary, day 14, nearly 5 months ago, you stated that Iran's military had been, quote, destroyed and, quote, made combat ineffective. That was on day 14 of the war. Was that an accurate statement?
They didn't have a Navy any longer. It was completely sunk. Their missiles were buried underneath a lot of their underground facilities, and their defense industrial base has been almost completely destroyed. So as far as a military assessment of Iran's capabilities, it didn't mean by any stretch of the imagination absolute zero, but their capabilities
Mr. Secretary,
at the lowest level
you stated that on day 14 of this conflict, in the second week of the conflict, you stated that Iran's military had been, quote, destroyed and, quote, made combat ineffective. Was that an accurate statement? Yes or no?
Iran's ability to challenge the United States of America at the level at which we're capable of.
That's not what I asked you, Mr. Secretary. You said on day 14, Iran's military had been, quote, destroyed and, quote, made combat ineffective. Yes or no? Was that an accurate statement?
What the American military has done to the Iranian military is a historic military defeat.
Will you answer the question
and they're ineffective in that context.
3 weeks later,
And now, new reports shed light on the type of military environment that is being fostered by the former Fox News host. See, over the past year and a half, Hegseth has reportedly fired or sidelined nearly 36 generals and admirals while blocking approximately 40 senior officers selected for promotion to flag rank, something that even Republicans have taken issue with. During the recent hearings, Susan Collins of Maine, the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, slammed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Tuesday for the removal of more than 24 senior military officers since taking the helm at the Pentagon, saying, quote, "I find this deeply troubling. These are men and women who volunteered to serve our country and swore an oath to support and defend our Constitution."
Instead of steering the ship through gathering storms, former leaders let our military languish through social experiments and globalist appeasement. Sheer weakness. Under President Trump, we have built a different type of department. The Pentagon is no longer run by bureaucrats. Instead, it's led by combat-tested veterans and world-class business leaders who are running the department like a business, and tech titans who are bringing lethal innovation to the battlefield.
For the first time in more than a decade, no active duty female naval officers are likely to be promoted to admiral. I find this deeply troubling. These are men and women who volunteered to serve our country and swore an oath to support and defend our Constitution. Over the course of their careers, they have earned the support and the trust of their commanders and subordinates, led our men and women in uniform, and were selected through rigorous command and promotion boards. They have served under presidents and defense secretaries from both parties. Reports that women and people of color are disproportionately fired or sidelined create the impression that their service is not valued.
Collins also went on to highlight news reports that women and people of colour were, quote, disproportionately fired or sidelined, arguing that these oustings will likely discourage well-qualified women and individuals of colour from joining the military, saying, quote, thus depriving us of their talent, dedication and patriotism.
On that side, but it's a challenge. I mean, we have a Secretary of Defense that's not focused on the right things. I mean, this week it was about testosterone. It's often about pull-ups.
What did you make of that, the testosterone focus?
The U.S. military does not need more testosterone. It needs better leadership. And that starts with the Secretary of Defense. It also starts with the Commander-in-Chief. I mean, ultimately, he is responsible. He's the one that hired Pete Hegseth, who is the most unqualified individual we've ever had in this position by far. They're firing the wrong people. And Pete Hegseth is firing people because they're women and they're black. Mm-hmm. President should fire Pete Hegseth. He's making awful decisions. It's putting service members at risks that I would not have expected when I served, that a Secretary of Defense would make these sort of decisions, or a president. I mean, I served under George H.W. Bush. Went to war in Iraq because Iraq invaded Kuwait. We had a goal, push them out, to support our ally. That's not this. This is a president. I mean, who knows why he got us into this? Was it the Epstein files? I'm not sure. I'm not sure we'll ever know.
Now, keep in mind that all this is going on while the United States is still engaged in a 5-month-long war with Iran, a war that has killed 18 service members and wounded hundreds and cost at least $37.5 billion up till now. Not to mention it has driven up energy prices and produced no clear endpoint. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, we have officers voicing their concern as to how dissent is dealt with within the ranks, all while the administration is presenting the conflict as fast, controlled, and overwhelmingly successful. But that narrative has repeatedly been challenged by facts emerging from outside the Pentagon's preferred communications channels.
President Trump campaigned on no more foreign wars. You've obviously supported him.
3 times. Very disappointed. My entire family is very disappointed. I don't feel like it is our war to fight, but here we are. And I did not think when the war started that it was going to be a 12-day, a 2-week, a 2-month. I'm like, here we go. And here we are. And I don't see it ending anytime soon. And I was a Trump supporter. I'm very disappointed.
American bases were struck more severely than officials initially emphasized. Dozens of troop injuries in Jordan were not immediately disclosed to the public, which the New York Times reported on. And soldiers and military families have contradicted official efforts to minimize the effects of Iranian attacks. The latest accounts here suggest that Hegseth is not merely removing officers because of performance failures. And this latest account suggests that Hegseth is not merely removing officers because of performance failures. One former officer described the purge as an attempt to establish the secretary's primacy over the armed forces, to demonstrate publicly that even the most senior military leaders would do exactly as they were told. And if we think back to some of the more notable dismissals, right? Think about General Randy George, the Army Chief of Staff, whom Hegseth pushed into early retirement in April while the Iran war was underway. The Pentagon gave no public reason for his removal. George had been in the post since 2023 and was removed roughly halfway through the customary term amid a broader series of senior dismissals, to the point that even a Fox News military spokesperson was puzzled and questioned the decision.
George is now out, was asked to retire yesterday. He's a personal friend of yours. What do we lose when we lose General George?
He's a generational chief of staff, as far as I'm concerned. I haven't seen anybody quite like him. He's got the intelligence. He's got the discipline. His warfighting experience is enormous. He's got the warrior ethos, and he's transforming the Army and taking it into the new technology and warfare that is so changing. Right. The truth is he's leading the other services in most of all of that. Right. And I don't agree with his dismissal for sure, because of what he's doing to the Army and the change it's impacting the department writ large.
That's what I've heard too. General, it was great to see you. Good luck at the Yankee game today and keeping up with everything. Thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, great being here.
And the administration, they're in front of Democrats and Republicans asking for more money regarding this war, right? It has already cost around $37.5 billion, and they're asking Congress for tens of billions more to replenish weapons and continue operations. And at the same time, lawmakers from both parties are demanding clearer explanations of the strategy here, the spending, and the war's endpoint, if there is one. And can the military achieve the president's objectives at an acceptable price? Not to mention that while asking for more funding, under Hegseth, the Pentagon's civilian harm prevention operation was reportedly cut by roughly 90%, leaving only a small number of personnel to oversee civilian protection issues while U.S. strikes accelerated across the Middle East, which numerous Democratic lawmakers have pointed to while seeking answers on the Iranian school attack that Trump recently dismissed as, quote, missiles were flying everywhere. We may never know what happened.
Move on now, and let's talk about AI. The Marvin Smart System, which appears to be the program on record being used in Iran, does the targeting work. We know of about 2,000
It's
people.
called the Maven system, not the Marvin system.
Excuse me. Thank you so much for that correction. It does it in a fraction of the time. The intention was to compress the kill chain, and the result was an attack that killed almost 200 children. Would you agree that tragic actions like this prove that when we trade time and humans for safety, people die?
The Maven system is a very effective tool. And inside that, we have very prescriptive processes by which we ensure as much precision as humanly possible in very complex battlefield
So you think we took every absolute effort to make sure that innocent civilians did not die in this attack?
I know that there is no country on planet Earth that takes more measures to ensure that civilian harm or civilian casualties are minimized than the United States of America and this War Department, and that is a fact.
Okay, and yet, Mr. Secretary, you eliminated the Department's civilian harm reduction staff. You eliminated for a country that makes great efforts to make sure human casualties are reduced or eliminated. Don't you think that goes actually counter to what you just said?
Let's keep in mind that school strike killed more than 150 students and staff. And nearly 5 months later, the administration still has not publicly explained what happened. But all of this, it's indicative of an administration that expects the American people to swallow their justifications for this war, and rightfully so, are coming under intense levels of scrutiny.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.